The tension in the studio is palpable, thick as the heavy buzzing air before a storm. Ibrahim Traoré, a man whose name has become synonymous with resilience and conviction, stands face to face with Baron Trump, his eyes burning with a quiet intensity. The cameras are rolling, the world is watching it down, and then it happens. "You don't understand," Ibrahim says, voice steady but laced with a power that sends a shiver down everyone's spine. "You think power comes from silence, but it comes from truth. The silence that follows is deafening." Baron Trump, poised and prepared for a typical political debate, falters, unable to respond. The crowd, though silent, can feel the moment shift. A battle for truth has begun. It was an ordinary evening, the sort that seems to stretch endlessly until history decides to make its mark. The stage, set in a grand studio filled with sharp white lights and a sea of expectant faces, was the site of an event that would change the world. Ibrahim Traoré, dressed in a crisp black suit, radiated an almost otherworldly calm. He had fought battles on the ground and in the hearts of his people, leading them to a new dawn. But tonight he was here for something different, a war of words. Baron Trump, youthful and polished, stood at the other podium. The son of the former president was no stranger to controversy, his silence in the media often speaking louder than the words of his family. But tonight, he would face a man who had built a life not on privilege, but on the sheer force of his will. The audience, a blend of elites and ordinary people, was on edge. The stakes were high. This wasn't just a debate, it was a reckoning. "Tonight," the host had said earlier, "we bring together two worlds, one built on legacy, the other on revolution." Ibrahim knew what this meant. He had already fought for the freedom of his people, seen firsthand the effects of an old world that hoarded power. But now, standing on this stage, he was here to challenge something far greater. Baron Trump was the embodiment of a system that no longer served the people. Ibrahim was the voice of that same people. The discussion began with Baron speaking about the future, a world where innovation and legacy collided. His words were smooth, rehearsed, like a well-oiled machine. He spoke of wealth, influence, and power in the same way a child might speak of their toys, detached from the deeper, more painful truths of the world outside their bubble. But Ibrahim listened, his face unreadable. Inside, though, he was calculating, analyzing the young man standing before him. Baron's world was comfortable, one that ran on privilege, on inherited wealth and status. Ibrahim's world was forged in the fire of struggle. "I understand. You're passionate, Mr. Traoré," Baron said, his voice cool and confident. "But passion doesn't change the world. Legacy does." The word stung, but Ibrahim didn't flinch. The audience shifted, waiting for his response. "You're wrong," Ibrahim said, his voice cutting through the tension. "Legacy only matters when it serves something greater than itself." Baron laughed lightly, as if the answer was a simple misstep. "So, what exactly is your point, Mr. Traoré? What do you hope to accomplish here?" At that moment, something in Ibrahim snapped. He had spent his life fighting for a world where the people could no longer be silenced, where truth was louder than tradition. The world Baron represented was an illusion, one built on the backs of those too weak to speak for themselves. Ibrahim had seen it firsthand, the lives lost to systems of control, the hopes crushed beneath the weight of old money, old power. "What I'm here to accomplish, Mr. Trump," Ibrahim began, his words growing in strength and intensity, "is not to play by your rules, but to expose the truth that lies beneath them." The crowd was silent, captivated. Baron stood frozen, his face momentarily losing its composure. For the first time, the young Trump felt the weight of someone else's truth press against his own. Ibrahim leaned in, eyes never leaving Baron's. "The problem with legacy, Baron, is that it blinds you to the present. You stand here, a man protected by walls of wealth and comfort, but the world outside is burning, and you can't even hear it." The words hung in the air, an invisible wall that Baron couldn't break through. His practiced speech was now nothing more than noise in the face of Ibrahim's raw, unyielding truth. The confrontation reached its peak. Baron opened his mouth to retort, but nothing came out. The air between them crackled with tension. It was as if the very ground beneath him was slipping away, his entire worldview crumbling under the weight of Ibrahim's words. The camera zoomed in on Ibrahim, his face solemn. But there was a quiet power there, a man who had endured more than most could fathom and had come out the other side not with bitterness but with clarity. "You don't know what it's like," Ibrahim said quietly, almost to himself, "to fight every day, to lose everything, and still stand for what's right." Barron stood motionless, the weight of those words sinking deep into him. He didn't know. He hadn't seen the world as Ibrahim had. The struggle, the pain, the injustice. His life had been one of certainty, of luxury, of entitlement. But now, as Ibrahim stood before him, those walls of comfort were starting to feel more like a prison. And in that moment, something shifted within Barron. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The audience, too, could feel it. They saw the young man's walls cracking, the realization dawning. Ibrahim wasn't just a man fighting for change. He was the living embodiment of a force that could not be ignored. The debate ended, but the silence lingered. The studio was still, each person lost in their thoughts. Barron stood there staring at Ibrahim, no longer sure of his next words, his next move. He had been silenced, not by force, but by truth. Ibrahim, for his part, didn't bask in the victory. He didn't smile. His eyes softened as he turned away. The battle was won, but the war for change was far from over. As he left the stage, there was no applause, no fanfare, just the quiet reverberation of a truth that had shaken the foundations of an old world. And somewhere, deep inside, Barron knew that his life and the world would never be the same. If this story touched your heart, consider subscribing for more inspiring tales of hope, healing, and unexpected kindness. Hit the like button and share this with someone who needs it today.